One private order, one furious warning, and one name Augusta National never expected to see standing on the other side. At 86, Jack Nicklaus was said to be ready to boycott the Masters over a secret board mandate that crossed a line even the Golden Bear would not ignore. That claim has spread because it sounds almost impossible. Nicklaus is not simply another former champion. He owns 6 green jackets, the tournament record, and one of the deepest bonds any player has ever had with Augusta. If he refused to appear, the empty space on the first tee would speak louder than any press conference. But there is a serious problem hiding beneath the outrage. No public statement from Nicklaus confirms the threat. Augusta has released no mandate. No reliable report has produced the alleged memo. So is golf watching a private war break into the open, or a viral story racing far ahead of the evidence? The answer matters because the rumor targets the most guarded club in golf and the man who helped build its legend. Behind the polished gates, a private demand would turn decades of loyalty into the most personal power struggle Augusta has ever faced. Do not pick a side before seeing the full record. Subscribe if golf's biggest power struggles deserve more than a loud headline, and tell us this. If Augusta forced Nicklaus to choose between obedience and principle, should he walk away? Now, here is what is confirmed, what remains missing, and why this story has hit such a raw nerve. Start with the relationship at the center of it. Jack Nicklaus did not merely win at Augusta National. He became part of its living memory. His first Masters victory came in 1963. He won again in 1965, 1966, 1972, and 1975. Then came 1986, the Sunday that changed how golf looked at age, pressure, and belief. Nicklaus was 46. He charged through the second 9, raised his putter on the 17th green, and claimed a 6th green jacket. No golfer has matched that total. That history gives his presence unusual weight. Modern stars arrive hoping to create one Augusta moment. Nicklaus carries 6 of them. His name lives in the record book, the television montages, and the stories parents tell children each April. When Augusta places him on the first tee as an honorary starter, it is not filling time before the competition. It is presenting a link between the tournament's past and present. The latest confirmed picture does not show a man cutting ties. In April 2026, Nicklaus joined Gary Player and Tom Watson for the ceremonial opening of the 90th Masters. Augusta National published images and coverage of the trio. The Associated Press and Reuters reported the scene. Nicklaus hit the opening shot, joked about the result, and took part in the laughter around the tee. That happened only months before this boycott claim began circulating. His physical condition also gave the moment extra meaning. Nicklaus had dealt with carpal tunnel surgery and admitted that he had barely played. His shot turned left toward the gallery, bringing concern followed by humor when nobody was hurt. He did not sound like a man eager to punish Augusta. Public reports described gratitude, warmth, and a desire to remain part of the tradition while his health allowed it. That does not prove a later argument never happened. Private disputes are private until somebody speaks. Powerful clubs often handle business away from cameras. Yet a responsible account needs more than the fact that secrecy is possible. It needs a document, an on-record source, a direct statement, or reporting from an outlet willing to stand behind the claim. At present, the alleged board mandate has none of those things in public view. But here is the detail most people are skipping. The lack of proof does not make the rumor harmless. It makes the person spreading it responsible for answering the hardest question. What exactly did Augusta order Nicklaus to do? Was the supposed rule about his honorary starter role? Did it concern public comments, sponsor duties, media access, or conduct during Masters Week? Was it directed at every honorary figure, or only at Nicklaus? Who approved it? When was it delivered? Did he reject it in writing? Without those answers, secret mandate is not evidence. It is a dramatic label searching for a fact. The word boycott creates the same problem. Nicklaus no longer competes in the Masters. He stopped playing the tournament after 2005. Today, a boycott would most likely mean declining the honorary starter ceremony, skipping official events, or refusing to attend Augusta during tournament week. Those are very different actions. A complete report must identify which one he allegedly threatened. Otherwise, the audience is asked to imagine the most extreme version. That distinction matters. Missing one ceremony because of health is not a protest. Declining a private dinner is not the same as ending a public relationship. Refusing to hit the opening tee shot over a board order would be a true confrontation. Each version creates a different story, but the viral title pushes them together because uncertainty is useful when outrage is the product. Still, it is easy to understand why people believed it. Augusta National has always guarded its inner workings. Membership details are private. Boardroom choices rarely arrive with long explanations. The club controls the Masters with a level of independence that almost no other major sporting event enjoys. Fans see the flowers, the green jackets, and the polished television pictures. They do not see every debate behind the gates. Nicklaus also represents something larger than a ceremonial role. For many fans, he stands for an older golf world built around majors, history, and personal honor. Augusta sells that same image better than anyone. Put those two symbols into conflict, and the story writes its own emotional ending. The institution protecting control against the legend protecting tradition. It feels true before anyone proves it. One side would argue that Augusta owns the event and sets the terms. The club decides who receives invitations, who performs official roles, how ceremonies operate, and what behavior it expects on its property. A past champion carries honor, but honor does not automatically erase rules. If a board policy applied fairly and protected the tournament, Augusta would have a right to enforce it. The other side would answer that Jack Nicklaus is not a hired decoration. His Masters record helped give the tournament its global power. Asking him to appear while limiting his honest voice would look less like tradition and more like control. If the mandate demanded silence, loyalty to a commercial policy, or approval of a decision he opposed, refusing it would become an act of principle rather than ego. There is the real rage point. Augusta would be using Nicklaus's history to strengthen its ceremony while treating his judgment as a problem behind closed doors. The club would want the Golden Bear on camera, but not in the argument. That version would anger viewers because it turns respect into a costume. It says the legend is valuable as long as the legend remains convenient. Yet that argument depends on the contents of a mandate nobody has seen. Without the document, Augusta cannot answer a specific charge. Nicklaus cannot be fairly praised for resisting words he has never publicly identified. Even critics cannot test whether the order was harsh, normal, or completely invented. Golf has seen this pattern before. A dramatic claim appears with just enough truth around it to feel solid. The names are real. The institutions are powerful. The tension matches old public debates. Then one anonymous phrase carries the entire story. Sources say. Insiders reveal. A memo proves. If no source, memo, or exact language follows, the audience receives theater dressed as reporting. Nicklaus deserves better than that. So does Augusta. That does not mean either side should escape criticism. It means criticism must land on something real. Nicklaus has spent decades giving opinions about golf, course design, major championships, and the direction of the game. Augusta has made decisions that deserve public debate, but attaching an invented ultimatum to either party would not expose power. It would hide the truth. And this is where the story turns again. Even if the current claim remains unproved, the reaction reveals a genuine fear. Fans believe golf's institutions are becoming willing to silence the very legends they celebrate. That fear did not appear from nowhere. Professional golf has spent years fighting over money, loyalty, access, league control, and who gets to define the sport's future. Players have been asked to choose sides. Sponsors have gained influence. Executives have spoken about unity while negotiations stayed private. Against that background, a hidden order from Augusta sounds less absurd than it once would have. But Augusta is not the PGA Tour, and the Masters is not an ordinary tour stop. The tournament issues its own invitations and protects its own traditions. That independence is part of its power. It is also why any direct confrontation with Nicklaus would become enormous. There is no commissioner standing between them. There is only the club, the champion, and the meaning each side claims to protect. Imagine the first tee without him. The starter announces Gary Player and Tom Watson. The crowd applauds, but one name never comes. Television cameras avoid the empty position until they cannot. Every question during the broadcast becomes the same question. Where is Jack? Augusta could refuse to discuss private business, yet silence would increase the noise. The absence would become the ceremony. For Nicklaus, the cost would also be painful. Boycotting the Masters would not simply embarrass a board. It would separate him from a place tied to the greatest competitive moments of his life. His son Jackie carried the bag during the 1986 victory and later stood beside him during honorary appearances. The Masters connects professional history with family history. Walking away would cut both. That is why a real ultimatum would need a serious cause. Legends do not lightly abandon the stages that preserve their legacy. Nicklaus has continued returning despite age, reduced strength, and health concerns. In 2026, he still made the trip and hit the shot. Any claim that he suddenly threatened a boycott must explain what changed after April. So far, the public story does not. Augusta would face risks as well. The club's authority depends partly on the belief that it protects golf history better than anyone else. A needless fight with the record six-time champion would damage that image. Fans would not view him as a random unhappy guest. Many would see him as the Masters itself, wearing a yellow shirt instead of a green jacket, and asking why tradition had become conditional. Supporters of the club would push back. They would say no individual, even Nicklaus, is larger than the Masters. Bobby Jones and Clifford Roberts built the tournament before his first victory. Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, Tiger Woods, and generations of champions added their own chapters. Augusta survived retirements, disputes, social criticism, and enormous changes in professional golf. It would survive one absence. That counter-argument is strong. Institutions cannot hand permanent veto power to their most famous members. A ceremonial role still requires cooperation. If the disputed policy concerned safety, scheduling, sponsor conflicts, or equal standards for every participant, the board might have acted reasonably. Calling every rule an insult would turn fame into immunity. But power also requires judgment. Applying the same rule to unequal situations is not always fairness. Nicklaus's role is unique because his history is unique. A wise board would recognize the difference between controlling an event and humiliating a symbol. It would speak privately, seek compromise, and avoid forcing an 86-year-old champion into a public loyalty test. The missing facts decide which argument wins. First, there must be proof that a mandate exists. Second, its exact demand must be known. Third, Nicklaus's response must come from Nicklaus or an authorized representative. Fourth, Augusta must receive a chance to answer. Until those steps occur, nobody has earned the right to declare a winner or a villain. Fans should watch for specific signals. A statement from Nicklaus would matter. A change in the announced honorary starters for 2027 would matter. Reporting from established golf journalists with named sourcing would matter. An official Augusta response would matter. Repeated social posts pointing back to one another do not create confirmation. 10 copies of one unsupported claim still equal one unsupported claim. The next Masters is where the rumor will eventually meet reality. If Nicklaus returns to the first tee smiling beside Player and Watson, the boycott story collapses unless he explains that a dispute was resolved. If he stays away for health reasons, that absence must not be falsely sold as protest. If he publicly names a mandate and refuses the ceremony, golf will have a conflict unlike anything Augusta has faced in years. Until then, the honest conclusion is uncomfortable but clear. The alleged secret order has not been publicly produced. The supposed threat has not been publicly confirmed. What is confirmed is Nicklaus's unmatched Masters record, his honorary role, and his appearance at Augusta in April 2026. Those facts create enormous stakes, but stakes are not proof. There is also a lesson for the club. Silence protects privacy, but silence can leave space for fiction. Augusta does not need to answer every online rumor. Doing so would create a terrible habit. Yet when a claim uses its most honored champion and threatens the image of its opening ceremony, one short denial could stop weeks of false drama. Mystery is part of Augusta's brand. Sometimes mystery sends the bill back. So here's the question Augusta cannot hide from forever, even if this exact rumor proves false. When tradition and control finally collide, does the club honor its legends by listening to them or only by placing them on the first tee? If Jack Nicklaus ever boycotts the Masters, the act will not need fake details to feel historic. One empty place beside the other honorary starters will explain the damage. Until that day, the responsible position is not blind defense of Augusta or automatic worship of Nicklaus. It is still a demand for evidence equal to the size of the accusation. The Golden Bear built his Augusta legacy with shots everyone could see. Any board mandate threatening that relationship should meet the same standard. Show the order, name the demand, confirm the response, then let golf decide who crossed the line. Drop a green jacket in the comments if Jack Nicklaus has earned the right to challenge Augusta, and answer this. Should any Masters rule apply to every legend in exactly the same way? If golf's private power struggles deserve direct coverage without invented evidence, subscribe. The next development will reveal whether this was a hidden war, a solved dispute, or merely a headline that outran the truth.